Seedfolks, read aloud by Mrs. Carter. Today we're going to be listening to Chapter 1 about Kim, and we're going to pay attention to things that she says, actions that she has, and what she thinks. And we're going to be able to identify some character traits for her. Some words that we're also going to come across that you might not be familiar with are the words alter, stern, and vow, so keep an eye out for those. And then as we read, we want to think about different clues the authors leave. So we want to think, how does Kim's cultural background and beliefs affect and shape her actions? And we want to think about what kind of person Kim is and words that we would use to describe her. In this chapter, we're going to learn that Kim is from Vietnam, and based on where she's from, makes different things that she does and what she believes different from our own. Chapter 1, Kim. I stood before our family altar. It was dawn. No one else in the apartment was awake. I stared at my father's photograph, his thin face stern, lips latched tight, his eyes peering permanently to the right. I was 9 years old and still hoping that perhaps his eyes might move, might notice me. The candles and the incense sticks, lit the day before to mark his death anniversary, had burned out. The rice and meat offered to him were gone. After the evening feast past midnight, I'd been woken by my mother's crying. My oldest sister had joined in. My own tears had then come as well, but for a different reason. I turned from the altar, tiptoed to the kitchen, and quietly drew a spoon from the drawer. I filled my lunch thermos with water and reached into our jar of dried lima beans. Then I walked outside to the street. The sidewalk was completely empty. It was Sunday, early in April. An icy wind teetered trash cans and turned my cheeks to marble. In Vietnam, we had no weather like that. Here in Cleveland, people called it spring. I walked half a block, then crossed the street and reached the vacant lot. I stood tall and scouted. No one was sleeping on the old couch in the middle. I'd never entered the lot before or wanted to. I did so now, picking my way between tires and trash bags. I nearly stepped on 2 rats gnawing and froze. Then I told myself that I must show my bravery. I continued farther and chose a spot far from the sidewalk and hidden from a view by a rusty refrigerator. I had to keep my project safe. I took out my spoon and began to dig. The snow had melted, but the ground was hard. After much work, I finished 1 hole, then a second, then a third. I thought about how my mother and sisters remembered my father, how they knew his face from every angle and held it in their fingers to feel the feel of his hands. I had no such memories to cry over. I'd been born 8 months after he died. Worse, he had no memories of me. When his spirit hovered over our altar, did he even know who I was? I dug 6 holes. All his life in Vietnam, my father had been a farmer. Here our apartment house had no yard, but in that vacant lot he would see me. He would watch my beans break ground and spread. He would notice with pleasure their pods growing plump. He would see my patience and hard work. I would show him that I could raise plants, as he had. I would show him that I was his daughter. My class had sprouted lima beans in paper cups the year before. I now placed a bean in each of the holes. I covered them up, pressing the soil down firmly with my fingertips. I opened my thermos and watered them all, and I vowed to myself that those beans would thrive.